I just bought 1,000 candles and I'm gonna see how many I can fit into a cake. But first, how many can I fit into a chip?
Shoot.
I'm doing this because the channel just hit 1,000 subscribers, and what better way to celebrate than buying 1,000 candles and risking burning down our vacation home by lighting random stuff on fire with them. Of course, first I needed to get the supplies, and for that I went over to the Dollar Tree where I picked up some cake mix, frosting that I'm sure I'm gonna use, the largest pan they had, and 17 boxes of birthday candles. I also got an assortment of random items that I thought looked prime for setting on fire with tons of candles, like a cookie. Why I thought a cookie would work, I have no idea. The cookie was hard and super thin, so by the time I had gotten like 4 candles in it, it all fell apart, literally.
How the cookie crumbles. That's such a bad joke.
I gave it another try, but it just wasn't working. It's almost like cookies aren't designed to have candles in them. You know what did work though?
A muffin.
A muffin is basically just a smaller cake, so this worked out wonderfully. I was able to fit a ton of candles in this thing. I feel like I could have fit more, but it was starting to feel like it was gonna fall apart, and I didn't want to risk it as I only had 1 muffin and 3 failures in a row would just suck. That said, the muffin nearly was a failure and almost caused me to can the entire video because it just wouldn't light.
Can the whole concept.
The ceiling fan was turned on. After turning that off, I was finally able to light the muffin, and this was shockingly good. The fire turned out to be huge despite the limited amount of candles. If this is the fire only like 30 candles will make, imagine what it's gonna be like when we get to hundreds on the cake. After blowing out the fire, on the first try of course, it was time to move on to the donut. This one I'm super curious how it'll turn out. Will the fire be in a circle like the donut? Will it all come together in the middle, or will it do something else? God knows, but we're gonna find out.
I ate one of these donuts earlier today and it was actually hard like a rock. Like you could attack someone with one of these donuts and you'd be charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
Yet again, I feel like I might have been able to fit a few more candles here and there, but I was able to squeeze nearly 50 candles into one donut. Unfortunately, the flame on this one was rather lackluster. Instead of doing something cool like I wanted it to, each side basically created their own wall of flame. It was a big and epic looking flame, but it could have been so much cooler, though I did get it to do something pretty stinking awesome.
It's a little known fact, the smoke that comes off of candles you can use to relight the candles. You can like get a flame that goes down one of the candles and hits it and boom, then all the candles kick back on. That's what I'm really hoping we see today.
Oh! From there, it was time to move on to the biggest mistake of the night, the banana. Bananas are the funniest food, and what's funnier than a banana? A banana filled with candles that's violently on fire. Now, unfortunately, I forgot one pretty big thing. Bananas are soft, especially when they've been sitting out for a week and been tossed onto concrete because I suck at throwing stuff. What I thought was gonna be a goofy moment turned into what looked like a crime scene, as the banana looked destroyed, ripped in half, and was so mushy it was basically a banana paste. I tried my absolute hardest to somewhat force candles into this. I think it turned out to be okay, all things considered. The only thing keeping these even remotely in place was the banana peel, which is why there's ones just flopping around and why the other half has nothing in it. I tried to get rid of it, but it turns out it's weirdly important for keeping the candles in place, and moving it just messed everything up. And to make it all the worse, the flame on this one was just lame. Don't use a banana as a birthday cake. Also, it got banana gunk all over my hands, which then got over everything else, and ugh, let's move on.
Well, what's funnier than a banana?
Other than part of it breaking off due to the smacking, this worked shockingly well. The middle part was perfectly soft to put candles in and had enough support to put a ton in without everything falling apart. That said, I did go a little too hard at the beginning and some of that was falling apart, but once I got into the groove, it was smooth sailing, other than when I actually tried the baguette.
Wow, that's dry. Oh my gosh, that's so dry. That's like a supersized saltine cracker.
I think this was probably the most candles anyone has ever put into a baguette. I have no proof that this is true, but I can't find anything online that says that it's not true, so I'm just gonna say that I now hold the world record for the most candles ever put into a baguette. This flame was sick. It didn't really look like much to start, but once it got going, it was going. It was an actual wall of fire. It basically turned a baguette into a bonfire log.
Okay, now this one's gonna be a trick to blow out. Holy. Well, I think it's time. Let's go bake a cake. I'm gonna be honest, this is going to be a disaster. I've never baked a cake before. I've never baked before. The closest thing to baking I've done is I made stuffing one time on Thanksgiving, and that was a disaster. This I gotta do all kinds of bogus to, so I can only imagine that this is gonna be worse, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't need to be edible, because all I'm going to do is set it on fire.
The first of that bogus was getting the oven heated up, and wow, would you look at that, it's already cooking. So that means it's time to get to mixing. First, I gotta get the cake mix in the bowl, which sounds easy, right? Somehow I am so bad at cooking that I even messed this up, because the bag just wouldn't open. Is there some technique that I don't know? Am I just too stinking weak? It's the second one. I'm stinking weak.
Wow, look at that. It's the death scissors. I could take my finger off with these if I wanted to.
Finally, using the death scissors, I was able to get the bag open, and after pouring it into the bowl, it was time to move on to the oil, which I wasn't going to use. Instead, I'm going to use
this wonderful cup of applesauce.
I don't get why this works. Maybe this is like a well-known tactic in the baking community, but I was told by my mother to use applesauce instead of oil, so I did, and it seemed like it worked out really well.
It's mean to the toilet after Taco Bell.
Next up was the water. Didn't mess that up, and after that, it was time for the final ingredient, eggs. Now this should be pretty easy, right? Just crack the eggs and get to mixing. Wait, what? What am I doing? A second bowl? What? Just use the other bowl. Well, here come the eggs. Maybe I'm doing something cool with them? Maybe like a funny bit? No, I'm just cracking them into this bowl and dumping them into the other bowl because reasons. How the heck am I so bad at baking that I mess up not cracking the eggs, but rather the entire process of getting the eggs from the fridge to the mixing bowl? After that absolute clown show, it was time to get to mixing. Now, when I filmed this, we were on vacation and we didn't have a mixer at the house, meaning I was gonna have to mix this by hand. And to do that, I would need something that I could mix with. Nope, too small. What the heck even is that? No, that's a horror movie type villain knife thing, not a mixing spoon.
I should put this away before I hurt someone.
Yeah, there we go. Finally, a mixing spoon. I was ecstatic about finding this thing. Mixing the mixture so that it becomes a moist mixture was brutally boring, and I'm not even sure if I did it right because it ended up looking like chunky vomit. It doesn't matter though because I'm not going to eat this cake. I'm gonna light it on fire with the power of hundreds of candles. Also, most of the chunks disappeared after a few minutes of whisking, which I think is what I was doing. I'm gonna be completely honest, I have no idea what whisking is.
You've heard of John Wick. Get ready for John Whisk. Okay, I think my paste is done. Let's get it cooking.
Surprisingly, I didn't mess up pouring the paste into the pan, and somehow I also didn't mess up putting it into the oven. But the real question is, did the cake turn out?
I guess we'll find out in about 20 minutes.
You know, all things considered, it turned out not awful. I don't know if it's edible, but you know what it can do? It can hold an ungodly amount of candles, and there's an ungodly amount of candles that needs to go in it.
1,000 candles sounds like a lot, but it doesn't get put into perspective until you're actually putting them into a cake. I had the help of dang near my entire family, and it still took nearly 30 minutes to put them all in. After half an hour of putting candles into a cake and nearly running out of space on that cake, it's time to set it on fire and see what happens when you put nearly 1,000 candles into a birthday cake.
This is the most absurd thing I've ever seen. It doesn't even look real. It's so dumb. Oh, this is gonna be great. Let's light it on fire. fire?
The fire started out slow, but it got big super quick. After only like a quarter of the candles were lit, it was already the largest flame we've had all day. And it was hot, like really hot. When I was halfway through the candles, it was already the size of a campfire and was so hot I needed to back up so my arm could cool off. And it wasn't slowing down. It got so big, I had to move my camera just to get all the fire in frame. And this wasn't even the entire cake. It was way bigger than I thought it was gonna get, which made me kinda worried.
How am I gonna put this out?
Once the entire cake was lit, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that it was a raging fire. The flames were reaching multiple feet high and you could feel the heat from the entire patio.
Okay, how does it go out?
I tried to blow it out, which didn't work and actually made it worse. Thankfully, we had a plan B. What was left after the fire looked like an actual war zone, which oddly looked like my interiors after trying every single flavor of Prime. To see that video, it's right there.